What's up? What's up, you guys? Happy Thursday. Yes, we have already got just a few days, technically a few hours left in 2022. 2022 owes me nothing. All right? Owes me absolutely nothing. And this is the Ash Brown Uncensored Show. Sorry to do a little intro. Yes, on this program, I talk a little bit about everything. It may be pop culture related. It may be Ash Brown related. You just never know until you check out an episode. That's it. Point blank, period. All right, so I had a comment on social media, and it just made me chuckle because I've talked about this. I won't say necessarily in depth, but I know that I've addressed this a few times. But I know that some of you guys are new subscribers, and I thank you for that. I do appreciate all the subscriptions, darling. Yes. We keep it going. And the comment was more or less about how did you blow $2.3 million. So let me give you guys a little context, okay? I did not personally lose $2.3 million. I was a part of a company that was getting an investment of $2.3 million. And the person that actually owned the company fumbled the bag. What are you talking about, Ash? Oh, I'd love to tell you guys all about it. Okay, so we're going back a few years. Yes, a few years. And after I graduated, I came back to Atlanta and could not get a job in radio, could not get a job in media at all. And I saw an ad online about an online radio station. And I was like, ooh, let me look this up. This is going to be fun. Let me do this. And I met with the owner. We seemed to click. And they let me know exactly what my part in the company would be and what my responsibilities, things that were expected of me. There was no pay. So this was just a way of me being able to still utilize my skills, hone on my skills, and get experience under my belt and figure out how to operate in this industry. So keep in mind, this was like a side hobby for me at first because I still needed to find work. I still needed to find a way to fund my life. And I got a couple of jobs, but I was still kind of doing this on like a part-time basis. So started doing this on like a part-time basis, and it slowly but surely started to pick up because the owner moved out of Atlanta and went on to another city, and I was the only one still here. So I was able to go and be the face of the company here in Atlanta. So all kinds of events, all kinds of things. And then I started the podcast show. If you guys are not aware, I had another podcast show before I had the Ash Said It show. All right. It was called the Ash Beezy Breezy show. it was like Ash Beezy Breezy Live or something along those lines. And I interviewed a lot of talent that was in and around Atlanta and a lot of small business owners that were doing a lot of really awesome things. So fast forward, I'm doing this basically, it's become a full-time job minus the pay. It's just really screwed up. And every time I would ask the owner of the company, hey, what are you going to do to compensate me? I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm pouring a lot of my time and efforts and money and gas and mileage. And they're like, oh my gosh, well, you know what? We're going to give you some stock. We're going to give you stock in the company. That way you can feel as though that your hard work is appreciated and you've been with us in the trenches before we were going to blow up and everything is this. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome. But every time I would ask them about it, there was an issue. There was a way of them trying to deflect. Every time I would ask about me getting this stock, and for all you young people out there that are starting anew or starting to work with people and collaborate, the number one thing that I can tell you that I did not do is get it in writing. Get it in writing. People can tell you anything until they're black and blue into the face. They can tell you any freaking thing that they want to tell you. But unless it's in black and white and it's filed in with a court somewhere, it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. So here I am, young Ash, fresh out of college, and pouring myself into this company. I'm helping to build this company. It's to the point where people, even today in 2022, people still don't believe that that company was not mine. I carried it on my back. The money that I did make with the company was off of my own personal sponsorships that I garnered. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody told me how to do what on X, Y, and Z. I got those sponsorships. And you know what I did with those sponsorships, y'all? I poured it back into the company. I was sitting up there spending money on hoodies in the wintertime, t-shirts in the summertime, pens, pencils, stickers, markers, all these things. And I was doing that, and I felt like, okay, well, if I do all this stuff, I'll be indispensable, and they'll never want to, let me go, and I can still, be building on my brand. But keep in mind, I'm getting nothing from them. Zero. Never got one check, never got anything. And time goes on, and time goes on. And so we have a team member that has brought some investors on board. And these are some foreign investors. And they're like, look, this is what it's going to be. They're going to, they can give away, a whole bunch of money and all this stuff. And it's going to be really great. They didn't give a dollar amount. To my knowledge, I was unaware of a dollar amount. So by this point, this is probably 4 or 5 years in. And the owner has made me the promotions director. Just want to give me a title to keep me stringing me along there. And they're like, look, we're going to have a meeting with the investors. I want you on the line. It's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And so they're giving me dates of when they're having these meetings, conference calls, and all these things. So these dates come and go. And I hear nothing. It's crickets. And I'm like, that's weird. So I'm texting and they're having an excuse for everything. And I knew that something wasn't right. You know how you could tell in your gut that something is just not right. Something was not right. And my predictions were correct. And so during this time, my grandfather is having issues. My mother is having some health challenges. My baby sister is having some health stuff going on. So as much as I was vested into that company, these things mattered more to me. So didn't hear anything from the owner or whatever, and just continued on living life. So one day I actually called the owner up and I'm like, hey, what's going on with the investment? What's this or what's that? And they basically tell me that the investors wanted too much creative control and they were only offering $200,000. And they were just not willing to sell their company for that, basically. And I could respect that. But at the same token, I had poured years of my life into this company. And to not get a return on it was disappointing. Very disappointing. And from that point on, I basically, had to distance myself. Not only on top of that, like, the person is telling me, oh, well, I know your grandfather just passed and your mom is sick, but hey, at least she's not dead. Insensitivity will take you out when it comes to me. And so I basically told them, hey, I'm just not going to deal with this anymore. I know that you've got a big brand and you've got all these things going on, but I was really counting on that money coming through, not just for myself, but I, at the time, was managing a lot of different acts in and throughout the Southeast region. I had blueprints. I had agendas. I had schedules. I had all kind of mock-ups for a potential tour. I had acts that were in hip hop, R&B, country, bluegrass, classical, pretty much every genre that you can even think of. I had acts that were in those different genres. And it was just like, it was heartbreaking for me because a lot of them were depending on those funds to fund this tour, to fund these performances, and to be able to take them around the globe. We had plans for a jet, y'all. We had plans and mock-ups for a jet wrapped with all their pictures and everything. Like, that was going to be my baby. And that was the most heartbreaking part of it for me, is me having to call back and tell these people it's not going to happen. Not even. And so from there, it just totally was depleted. It depleted all of my excitement about the company. And it wasn't worth it to me anymore. So I just kind of ventured off, and I felt like this was God's way of telling me, look, this media stuff is not for you. Call it a day. So we fast forward, not in media, haven't heard anything else about it. And I get a phone call from someone from that company. And they're like, hey, I know it's been a while, Ash, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing good, trying to just get through life and everything. And they're like, oh, I was really surprised to see you leave because, you were there before me, and, you were just so excited about the company, and you really had a lot of enthusiasm, and it was really, sorry to see you leave. I say, yeah, but, that's how life goes. Sometimes you just got to let things go. And they were like, oh, I thought it was because of the money situation. And I said, what do you mean, money situation? Well, the owner passing on that $2.3 million. What? 2.3, 2.5, something along those lines. If it was over $1 million, dude, you passed on $2 million? You passed on $2 million and you lied about it to me. That's the thing that just really burned my biscuits. But it was like, so much time had passed, and I was like, I have no allegiance to this company. Anyways, I have no allegiance to them. I wish them well, but it was just really messed up. So the person I talked to was actually the one that garnered the deal between the investors and the owner. And this person told me the truth. So she is telling me about how they were on conference calls, and she was asking, hey, where's Ash, your director of promotions, your promotions director? Where's she? And the owner then says, oh, well, she and her family, they took a month vacation in the Bahamas. The freak. Y'all, I don't even know anybody in the Bahamas. I know no one out there. And to be able to, I don't know too many people that could take off life and just stay in the Bahamas for a month. That'd be freaking amazing. If I was making money like that, shoot. If I was making money like that. And she said that every time that a meeting came up that I should have been at, this person had an excuse. This person had an excuse for where I was. And basically said that the investors didn't want to take creative control at all, was giving the owner free reign to do whatever. And then on top of that, the only thing that they were asking for was pretty typical of any investment deal. They want to know where the heck their money's going. They want to know about returns. They want to know how fast are you going to be able to flip this money. And a lot of people don't realize this, but say $2.5 million. You're not going to get a check for $2.5 million. That's not how it goes. With investors of that caliber, you're going to get a percentage of the money per quarter. And quarters typically are every 3 months. And you have to show, where are you putting these funds? How are we making a return on those funds? What's going to be next? And I think ultimately this owner was afraid of success. A lot of people, they say they want this, they want that. It actually comes and they fumble the ball. they fumble. They fumble it. And so I felt that is exactly what happened. And it just made me a little sour again to the industry. I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with these people. And on this phone call, yes, this is a very long call that I'm just getting so educated on how trifling and dirty some people are. So the person also tells me that, they've been using your picture and likeness to sell this and your pictures and likeness to sell that. I was like, oh, really now? Now that I'm interested in, because that's in current times. So sure enough, I checked it out and this person was right. They were using my face and likeness all over. I mean, impersonating me on emails to just a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, we're going to nip this in the bud. We're going to nip this in the bud. And I had a buddy of mine that had just finished law school and had joined his family's practice. And I told him about the situation. He was like, you want me to send an official cease and desist? I said, if you could do that, I would be so grateful. Thank you so very much. And sure enough, they sent the person cease and desist. And then this person, because normally in real life, people, if you mess up, you mess up. Okay? That's just it. You mess up. It's okay. Just accept your mess up and just continue on with life. No. This person has to win. They have to have the last say. So this person proceeds to send me an email, y'all. Send me an email about how they picked me up off the streets of Atlanta. First of all, first and foremost, I've never lived in Atlanta. Atlanta is a landmark that I give people just because it's easier to understand. I'm in Georgia, Atlanta. Okay, that's a central location. Cool. You didn't pick me up off the streets. I responded to an ad off of Craigslist. That's what I did. All right. So first and foremost, let's not tell stories. Let's not create this reality that's not real. And I was like, you were like a younger sister to me. And, I tried to just garner you. And I'll give you this, because I know that they still listen to my stuff. So I'll give them this. I appreciate the opportunity that they allotted me to utilize their company. I appreciate that because that helped me to find my voice in a sense, and also helped me to figure out how to deal as media with the media in the media type of deal. So I'm grateful for that. But it's really messed up how you did your girl. It's really messed up. I can laugh about it now, but I was pissed for a lot of years. I was very angry for a lot of years. But as life goes on and I'm able to make my own decisions and choices in how my narrative goes. I don't allow anyone else to control my narrative and how I speak and what I speak about. And as time goes on, it's a laughable situation, but understand, people of the world, your girl, Ash Brown, Ash Beasy, Ash said it, I did not pass on $2.5 million. The juggernaut that was in charge of that company passed on $2.5 million. Okay? I was really crushed initially, and then I was really kind of devastated to find out all the lies within the lies of the lies of the lies. And all the lies. So, moral of the story, kiddos, and everybody else that's listening to me, get it in writing. Do not give away your labor as I did, because essentially that's what I did. I gave away my labor. I gave away my time. I gave away my creativity, and I was not repaid back. Because technically speaking, I'm not entitled to shit. I'm not entitled to any of that stuff back. I'm not entitled to it. I didn't sign a contract. I didn't have anything legally binding me to anything. And that's just what it was. So yeah, the person sent this long message, this condescending email about how they did this for me and they did that for me and I'm ungrateful and all these different things. Okay, well, just stop using my name and likeness. How about that? Take it off the websites. Take it off the websites and stop pretending to be me in emails. How about you do that? Yeah. So I never heard from them again. But ever so often I will get messages from people that associate me with that company still because they thought that it was my company. I never claimed for it to be my company, never. But I think because I was the face for so long here in the South, people just assumed that it was mine. And even while I was still dealing with that company, when I would bring up me starting my own company and me doing my own little promotions and stuff, they didn't like that. They did not encourage it. Oh, no. Well, I need you, we need you to be full-time here and doing this and that, and we don't need you distracted and blah, blah, blah. But this company's not generating any money. This company is not, it's still on the chopping board, on the ground. It's scraping the bottom of the bucket still, not making any revenue. I should have started my company back then. I should have. But I had too many people like him in my ear. And it just is what it is. So, like I said, kiddos, get it in writing. Get it in writing, getting in writing. There's nothing wrong with doing like a trial situation where you just try something like once or you see how it does and see how you like it or whatever. Don't let years pass and you don't have something in writing, something stamped and filed in a courthouse somewhere. Get it in writing. Don't be like Ash. Be better than Ash. And that's my little message going into 2023. Get it in writing, damn it. Do it, because you will feel so vindicated that you took that extra step. And don't get pulled into the whole, oh, you're like a family to me. You're like my cousin. You're like my little brother. You're like my little sister. I just want to protect you so much. Because those are the people you need to look out for. Okay? Those are the people that are not good people. They're not. But yeah, anyways, I love you guys. If you're not already, follow me on social media. One Love Ash, the number 1 LOVEASH. And I will holler at y'all later. Deuces.